The Vita is well and truly dead. It's a shame that it wasn't supported by Sony, but plenty of indie games called it home during its short life, and it was also one of the biggest factors in making visual novels more common in the West. Its form factor, portable nature, and the fact that its fanbase was absolutely ravenous and just bought everything on the system, it provided the best boost of visual novels in the West in history, I would say, at least on consoles. Yeah, the DS and PSP had some visual novels, but the Vita, for me, this was the pioneer. Now, the home for visual novels may now be on the Switch, but the Vita had so many great VNs available, and many of them physically too. You know I like physical goodness, so yeah, here are pretty much all the visual novels on the Vita that are available physically. I believe this list is definitive, but please let me know if I have missed anything, and I will update the pinned comment. And I know, Nicole are holding back some Vita physical releases, but I really don't think any of them are visual novels. Before we get into it, please do the best thing that you will do today and go get some ice cream. And then after that, do the second best thing you will do today and subscribe to VN Paradise. We want to grow and spread the gospel about visual novels, and we need your help to do that. Click that bell button too, because when we get to 3,000 subscribers, we are giving away two Nintendo Switch games, Lyrica 1 and 2, which is a rhythm game with VN elements, and Super Mash, which has nothing to do with VNs, but it's good anyway, so please subscribe now. Are you ready for the list? Let's get on with it. 2064 Read Only Memories is a cyberpunk adventure game with elements of a visual novel that's set in the same universe as Valhalla, which we'll talk about near the end of this video. This goes for an old school style inspired by the classics such as Snatcher, and thematically it has all the hallmarks of a cyberpunk narrative as androids begin to take over daily life in the city, and you, as a journalist, try to track down a kidnapped friend. On the Vita, this was released physically by Limited Run in North America. Seven Scarlet is a fun and mystery otome set in a small insular village, with the main character arriving in search of her missing brother. It's very plot heavy, but does lose its way somewhat with slightly clumsy romance integration. Many complain the lack of urgency as she's trying to find her brother, but instead focuses on fluffy romance stuff. But after a few routes, the mystery really does pick up to a satisfying conclusion. This was made available physically in North America and Europe, and it's available on PC too, but on consoles this is stuck on the Vita. A Winter's Daydream was a physical release that was exclusive to Play Asia. This is from Ebihime, who you may have heard produced Strawberry Vinegar and Blackberry Honey amongst many others. This is a hijinks-filled tale of a lad who returns to the countryside to see his grandmother, only to find she's turned back into a youthful, kinda hot girl. That reminds me of a dodgy Japanese video I once watched. Thankfully, no incest here. It's a pretty bittersweet story that focuses on family. Considering this release was pretty much the last Vita physical release, for the moment it's sold out very, very quickly. Bad Apple Wars is a PlayStation Vita exclusive visual novel, an otome. Here our main character is dropped into an otherworldly academy where she must choose between two warring factions, the good apples or the bad apples. It's not ranked as one of the highest, with many lamenting the lack of choices throughout the experience and not too much divergence in routes with the love interest. Still, an interesting one. Chaos Child is a fascinating murder mystery visual novel. It's a sequel to the classic Chaos Head, although there are debates within the community as to if you should play Head before playing this one, with some saying you should, while others saying Child stands on its own 2 feet. Head will give you a lot of prior information beforehand, but maybe also just a little bit too much, as you'll be able to see what's going on before the characters do here in Child. Anyways, enough of that debate. If you want an incredible murder mystery with a serious tone, then look no further than Chaos Child. It's also available on PS4. By the way, if you're interested in purchasing any of these VNs for your Vita collection, then the links below in the description and pinned comment is the place that you need to be. If you click those links and purchase, then you also support VN Paradise in the best way possible, as we're currently not monetized. We don't earn anything aside from your affiliate support, so thank you ever so much. Obviously, many of these are well out of stock right now, but I did my best to find the ones that are still available. Check the links below. There are 3 code-realized games available physically on the Vita, the main game plus its 2 fan discs. Strangely enough, I believe the main game is only available physically in North America. Not sure why they skipped Europe on that one, but the fan discs are available in both regions. What is there left to say about the code-realized games? Many consider these to be the ultimate otome console games. A bit of steampunk, bit of sci-fi, a whole lot of lovable love interests. They're also available on many other platforms. They've been around the blocks a bit, and deservedly so. If you need to know a bit more info, then check out our Ultimate Otomes on the Nintendo Switch video after this one. I guess the same could be said for Collar X Malice, another fantastic otome game, this time with a higher focus on the plot as a police officer is caught with a deadly, poisonous collar around her neck. She's blackmailed into investigating a certain case, and what follows is quite a serious otome which fans of the genre highly recommend, even to those who aren't entirely interested in the romance aspects of an otome. Sadly, the fan disc called Collar X Malice Unlimited never got an English release on the Vita, but it did for the Switch. All 3 of the mainline Danganronpa games are available on the Vita, and were in fact the birthplace of the series. It started with Trigger Happy Havoc, then Goodbye Despair, and finally with Killing Harmony. The Danganronpa story begins with you waking up trapped inside a school alongside a cast of other characters, and the only way to get outside is by murdering one of the others without being found out. However, once a murder has occurred, a trial will take place, and if the murderer is found out, then he will be executed. Conversely, if the wrong person gets accused, everyone except the actual murderer will be killed. It's a brilliant and absurdly entertaining setting that will keep you guessing what's truly going on for the entirety of the trilogy. For some reason, these physical releases on the Vita can be absurdly expensive in places, so maybe hit up the Nintendo Switch Decadence Pack if you're not fussed about which console to play them on. Deathmark is a great horror visual novel that revolves around the urban legend of people who receive a strange mark are sure to die. With a well-crafted story and engaging dialogue, your investigation even includes some nice gameplay elements with RPG stuff going on as you fend off death. One of the stronger horror visual novels available on the Vita, which is no doubt helped by the strong character designs from Sumio Fumiya. There's some epic looking Persona-style characters here. Love it. Hakuoki, Kyoto Winds, and Edo Blossoms are available physically on the Vita. The Hakuoki saga is pretty bewildering to anyone just getting into it, with so many different re-releases, each with different subtitles. Now these 2 separate Vita releases. Well, don't worry, to put it bluntly, they are just the same story chopped in half. Kyoto Winds is basically the first half of the game, while Edo Blossoms picks up the character roots. So you definitely need to play Kyoto first, and if you want to do everything in the nicest order possible, you may need to keep switching cartridges, which sounds like a bit of a pain and may err you towards an all-in-one release from previous ports, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe these 2 contain the most content out of all the previous releases, including more storylines and fan disc content. Plus, it looks great on the Vita. London Detective Mysteria is a PS Vita console exclusive otome visual novel. Like a good few visual novels set in historical periods, it utilizes famous or fictionally famous people. Here we have a young lady training to become a detective in Victorian era London. She'll team up with Sherlock, Watson, and even come toe-to-toe with Jack the Ripper himself. It can be fairly violent at times, and the main character being a damsel in distress may frustrate some, but it's an interesting game nonetheless. This was released physically on the Vita by Limited Run Games in North America, so good luck getting it for a reasonable price. You can get it on the PC though. There are 2 Muv-Luv physical releases on the PlayStation Vita. There's the simply titled Muv-Luv, which contains both Muv-Luv Extra and Muv-Luv Unlimited. Then there's the next entry called Muv-Luv Alternative. What's interesting about these releases is just how the quality can jump from the first entry to the last one. Muv-Luv Extra is a pretty generic VN that has some good points, but also some famously tedious and long-winded scenes that make you want to crawl over broken glass while not wearing any trousers. Unlimited is a really nice step up in quality, but then Alternative, oddly enough, is considered to be one of the greatest visual novels ever made. This brings true meaning to the old meme that it gets good after 50 hours, so it is a bit of a journey, but many people will say it's worth the hardship of climbing Everest first to find a tropical beach at the top, or some other analogy that I can't be bothered to think of. My Aunt is a Witch, also known as Bewitched on some platforms, but probably changed for copyright reasons, is a pretty unremarkable visual novel that incorporates hidden object style gameplay into a story of a boy who's sent to live with his aunt. It features some nice artwork, very magical, not the usual style for a VN, but the story falls short and probably was not worth its Play Asia exclusive release in very limited quantities. A similar sort of thing could be said about Nicole, another Play Asia exclusive visual novel. This is a dating sim otome about a girl who ends up trying to solve the case of missing girls. Sadly, the story doesn't live up to its premise, and the love interests are on the bland side, so not one you should be seeking out unless you're looking for a complete collection. Norn 9, on the other hand, is a fairly high quality otome whose only English release is on the Vita. It's on the Switch in Japanese, but I guess Axis Games passed on making this one happen just yet on the Switch. Either way, it's a very solid otome with musical contributions from the legendary Nobuo Uematsu, although I think it was just one song. Never mind. This is a sci-fi otome that's set on a high-tech ship, which has a slow start but a very nice payoff at the end. Interestingly, this otome actually has 3 female protagonists, each with 3 different love interests, so it's a pretty meaty and varied time. Both Nurse Love games are available physically on the Vita. Both Addiction and Syndrome were released in North America by Limited Run Games. These are 2 very well done Yuri VNs set within the medical world. The stories are completely separate, so you don't need to read one before the other, but they follow a similar sort of premise. A young woman, fresh out of medical school, now taking her first steps into the professional world. Prepare for a really good time if you can afford them. If not, check out the Switch bundle, which is much more affordable physically. Pantsu Hunter, back in the 90s, a pretty throwaway visual novel that was released physically exclusively to Play Asia. It's rather incredible this tiny, almost amateurish VN managed to get a physical release, but this was when East Asia Soft were trying to scrape the barrel for any game they could get before the doors for production on Vita cartridges closed. Anyways, people on eBay are now asking for extreme sums of money for this poor visual novel. Don't bother wasting your cash. Period Cube, Shackles of Amadeus, is a Vita exclusive visual novel. Yes, it's not even been put on the PC as of yet. It's kind of obscure, especially for one developed by Automate, an Idea Factory, published by Axis Games. Here, the protagonist gets sucked into a virtual world while searching for their missing brother. In this world of Arcadia, you are the only hope to defeat evil. It's not the best of its kind on the Vita, but as a completely exclusive release, it's definitely a unique prospect that you can't get anywhere else at the minute. There are 2 Psychedelica games on the PS Vita, Of the Black Butterfly and its sequel, Of the Ashen Hawk. Now, these 2 otomes can be very much standalone titles and read without too much worry of reading the original game before the sequel, but you will miss a few tidbits and references here and there if you're that kind of person who needs to get all the nods. Either way, these are known for their melancholy tones. Don't go in expecting wonderful, happy endings with horse rides on the beach at sunset, but you'll be seeing some really great artwork from Yuiga Satoru, and they're developed by Automate, so you know you're almost certainly going to get some decent quality in these visual novels. Psychopath's Mandatory Happiness is a game based on an anime turned into a visual novel form, which seems to have confused a lot of reviewers over on Amazon, complaining about why it's just people talking and there being no action. Bless them. Developed by Majors, I think a lot of people had high hopes for this one, taking place within the first season of the anime. I think some were hoping for some more Steins Gate quality sci-fi goodness, but sadly, it just turned out so-so. Perhaps one for fans of the anime rather than a casual audience. Punchline is another major special, this time written by the same dude who did the Nonary Games releases, which I'll talk about in a bit. So big hype, a lot of expectations, and just decent results. Again, it's based on an anime, so it was judged rather unfairly by fans who were expecting a bit more interaction. With nice, capable 3D graphics and the fun premise of haunting female tenants, you learn to master your ghostly abilities and take part in some silly, panty prospects. Yeah, not one for the kids. Roommates is another cheapish dating simulator that was published physically during the latter days of the Vita's lifespan as a Play Asia exclusive. Here you play as a boy or a girl and have a commendable diverse set of characters, but the plot is paper thin and overall it's just a bit of fluff that probably never needed a physical release. Root Double, however, another Play Asia exclusive, most certainly deserved a physical release. Root Double is a science fiction visual novel directed by Nakazawa Takumi, better known for the visual novel cult classics of the Infinity Trilogy of games. The plot is about a group of people trapped inside a research facility that's on the verge of collapsing. With very little time left, they must work together to escape the dreadful situation. It's a complex and well thought out story filled with mystery and unexpected revelations. It's not quite perfect in its execution. You'll probably be greeted by plenty of bad endings without realizing why, but it's still a high quality visual novel on the Vita. Despite naming similarities to Double, Root Letter has nothing to do with it, very much its own game. Root Letter is a detective visual novel as you arrive in a town in search of a pen pal from 15 years back who seemingly disappeared, using her past letters as clues to uncover the disturbing truth. This is simple but fun investigative gameplay as you search the environments and interrogate people who are hiding more of the story. It's a fascinating premise that doesn't always work, but it's still an enjoyable time. Unlike the Nintendo Switch version, which includes new real-life photo backgrounds and characters, this one only has the old-school hand-drawn graphics, which some may actually prefer. I think I do. Steins Gate is regarded as perhaps the ultimate visual novel, one of the greatest of all time. It's the most famous title in the science adventure series of visual novels, but you don't need to worry about missing much because it's the best entry point into this fantastic series. It's a science fiction story filled with mystery and conspiracies that will keep you right at the edge of your seat until you finish it. And let me tell you, its true ending is truly something to behold. It also has some of the most memorable characters ever written in a VN. If you love visual novels and haven't played this one yet, what are you waiting for? Steins Gate Zero is more or less a follow-up to the original story. It features just as much mystery, science fiction, and intrigue as its parent game. It's better not to go into too much detail about this because it would contain spoilers for the original Steins Gate, so don't let that Zero fool you. You should play this one after finishing Steins Gate. It is most certainly a sequel, and you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you played Zero first. All you need to know is that this one is worth experiencing if you loved the first game. Synergia is a short, sweet cyberpunk Eurovision novel, only a handful of hours long to experience a down-in-the-dumps copper who gets a brand new android who seems to be a little bit too advanced than the norm. In its short runtime, you get many plot twists, you get conspiracy, you get quandary about what is considered human, there's a war going on, plus the simple love story that almost gets pushed to one side. It's decent, but probably could have been expanded to be a little bit better. This was a Play Asia exclusive. The house in Fata Morgana might be one of the best stories ever told in a video game, let alone visual novels as a whole. It's a perfect blend between mystery, horror, and romance, all within a beautiful gothic art style and an incredible soundtrack. It has some adult and really dark themes, but it deals with them with a degree of maturity not usually seen in the medium. If you have any interest in this genre, you should absolutely, without a doubt, play this one. Even if VNs aren't your thing, you should still play this game. It is a masterpiece of all masterpieces. On the Vita, this was available physically in North America, but only via limited run games. Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters is a mix of tactical RPG and visual novel. I remember there was some debate as to how much of a VN it actually is, but hey, the publisher says it is, so that's good enough for me. Here you join a ghost hunting team in a game that very much received mixed reception upon release, but was praised for its reaction towards event system with various sensors. An interesting concept, but not the best. Two games in the duology of Utawarerumono, Mask of Deception and Mask of Truth. They were made available physically in North America on the Vita. They have some of the best character development of any video game series, period. These games also have quite a few strategy RPG gameplay segments to break up the constant reading. Not only that, but gameplay moments that are surprisingly enjoyable and really easy to understand even if you've never played a single strategy RPG in your life. Plus, these games have some of the most gorgeous art I've ever seen in a visual novel, and the soundtrack is simply masterful. Sadly, the first game in the series isn't available physically on the Vita, but Prelude to the Fallen is available digitally instead. If you have a PS4, then you can find that one physically over there. Valhalla is a really chill visual novel where you play as a bartender serving drinks while listening to your regulars and the stories they tell. It's all set in a cyberpunk world and really nice looking and detailed old school pixel art. Words cannot describe how comfy and relaxing this whole game is. Not only that, but all the characters you meet are instantly likable, making this game an incredibly pleasant experience. It's a strong recommendation for anyone who wants an engaging and charming cyberpunk story. This was made available physically in North America via limited run games, so good luck getting it for a decent price now. The two Xblaze visual novels are available physically on the Vita. Embryo, the first game, is available in both North America and Europe, while the sequel, Memories, is only available in North America. This is a series that shares the same universe as the Blaze Blue fighting games, and with that comes a set of VNs that seem to be handled by developers inexperienced with the genre. An uninteresting main character, flawed gameplay system, and unremarkable presentation. There is a reason that these can be found crazily cheap, especially the European Embryo. Yumeutsutsu Re-After and Remaster may be games you are familiar with if you've watched our best Yuri games on Switch video a short while back. Remaster, the main game, and its fan disc Re-After actually came to the Vita after the Switch version, although due to cartridge size they are on separate cartridges. These tell the story of a young girl who's trying to reconnect with her estranged sister. She joins a video game development company where her sister also works. She gets to know the other girls there, as well as the world of video game development. It has some really great artwork here. Both of these were a Play Asia exclusive for the Vita release and eventually sold out, so you may have to pay a big price to get them again. Or you could just get them on Switch for a reasonable price, bundled together instead. Let's end this list with some all-time classic VMs. The three games in the Zero Escape series are available on the Vita, although it may be slightly confusing if you don't research it just a little bit. The first game, 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors, can only be found bundled with the second game, Virtue's Last Reward, in a package called the Nonary Games. Or you can buy the second game separately by itself if you want to. And finally, the third game in the series, titled Zero Time Dilemma, can be found physically by itself, but only in North America, unlike the other two releases, which saw a European physical release as well. All of these are critically acclaimed adventure games, mixing visual novel narrative with escape room type puzzle elements, and are the perfect introductory games if you want to get into visual novels. Perhaps your starting steps, as you will have found out if you watched our best VNs to start with video. Speaking of which, thank you for watching. Be sure to check out some of our other content, plus subscribe so we can grow bigger and spread the word about visual novels to the world and to the moon. It must be preached there too. If you want to purchase any of these that are still available, then consider using the links in the description, as that is currently the best way to support VN Paradise until we get monetized. We're like 40% of the way there. Plus, the prices of these are just going to go up and up, so don't hang about if you're on the fence. Just forget the limited run Play Asia ones, they are way too expensive and probably not worth it. Here are 4 of our videos that may also interest you. We'll see you over there.